Hello class, Aidan the Hostel here. I was just pouring myself a nice horn of mead, and you have good timing because today's question actually comes from Daniel S., who asks, coincidentally enough, about mead. So that is what my topic of today will be. So Daniel asks, how was mead made in the Viking time era? Well, Daniel, let me tell you a story. In fact, let me start off by telling everybody what mead actually is. Now, mead is spelled M-E-A-D, mead. Not to be confused with meat, because that's what some people think that I say when I say mead. But mead is, quite simply, fermented honey. Every culture in the world that has cultivated bees has had some sort or form of mead. Excuse me 1 second. Good. So, let me tell you the story of mead. The Vikings would make mead. They would make it in a cauldron on a fire inside, say, a longhouse. And mead is very simply made by mixing honey at the right proportion with water. The water will thin the honey down enough to make it viscous and drinkable enough and not too thick. They would heat it on a fire, and sometimes they would remove the impurities out of it and then let it cool. And basically at that point the wild yeast would take over and ferment the honey liquid that it was in the cauldron. This was all done open top, and it was also done without the knowledge of yeast. Today, we all know what yeast does, but the Vikings did not know that. So this was just a miraculous gift from the gods. They enjoyed mead pretty much all the time. They would drink it at meals. Some of their myths actually revolve around mead. It is said that in the halls of Valhalla, whenever the warriors die and go to meet Odin in the afterlife, they will be seated at a table where there will be a goat whose udders produce mead, and there'll be as much mead as anybody could drink, an ever-flowing bounty of mead. So that is basically what mead was, and what mead still is. So class, that is some of the story of mead. There's a lot of other things. For instance, this, in case you didn't realize, is a mead horn. Now this is created from a steer, cut off, hollowed out, and was typically lined with beeswax. Mine is lined with a more modern material. I wanted something that was a little bit more durable in the heat and whatnot, and then I actually carved it myself. Now, the Vikings, there have been mead horns that have been found that actually had decorations, metal that was stamped and worked that would have went around the rim to make it all nice and beautiful and ornate. And there were also other tidbits and things that they would do to create something that was, truly beautiful. Now, not all Vikings had mead horns to drink out of, but these beautiful ones, these very ornate ones, would have been reserved for chieftains and kings and things like that. There was a lot of their culture that revolved around mead because it was, like I said earlier, truly seen as a gift from the gods. Well, class, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Tune in to the next one where I answer some more questions. And until then, Skål, which, by the way, is cheers.